The wind didn't blow, it screamed. It tore across the plains of ice like a beast that never slept. The sky, a smear of gray and ash, never changed. And beneath it, a small figure walked alone. She was barely the size of a human child. Pale lavender skin shimmered against the snow, soft and cracked where cold had bitten deepest. Her ears, long and thin, twitched with every sound. But the silence here was complete. It wasn't natural silence, it was the kind that came after something terrible. Naiva had not meant to survive the crash. Her ship had been a medical freighter, civilian marked. It hadn't mattered to the pirates. Nothing did anymore. Fire. Cold. Screaming. Then silence. The emergency pod had ejected her automatically, throwing her into a world she didn't know. 2 days. No food. No fire. Just snow. And shadows. She clutched her thermal satchel, now just fabric and broken filters, and kept walking. Every few steps, she stumbled, but she didn't stop. Then she heard it. A hiss. Faint. Sharp. Like breath on glass. Her heart clenched. Shaveth. Her people told stories about it, long, white, silent. It hunted not just flesh, but heat. Warmth was its food. And there was only one reason it would come, it had chosen her. She dropped low to the snow, crawling through the powder toward a jagged stone ridge. Pain flared in her legs, but she didn't cry. Crying wasted breath. Crying brought the Shaveth closer. She reached a crack in the rocks, just wide enough to slip into. She slid inside, tucked her limbs close, and stayed very, very still. Outside, the wind slowed. The hiss did not. It circled the ridge. Once. Twice. Then stopped. The air changed. Heavy. Electric. Naiva held her breath until her lungs ached. Then, finally, the hiss faded. For now. A long distance away, a visor blinked. Silen squinted through the lens, brushing frost from the cracked screen. The heat signature was small. Flickering. But it was there. He hadn't expected survivors. Most ships didn't stand a chance out here, and pirates never left anything worth salvaging. But this signal was moving. Slow. Erratic. He adjusted the rifle on his back and began to walk. Naiva stirred as light blinked red outside the cave. Not the ice. Not the snake. Something else. She crawled forward, peeking over the snow. A tall figure stood just beyond the ridge. Bulky, layered in metal and fabric. Human. She backed up instantly, heart pounding. Humans meant trouble. Her parents had said so, traitors, fighters, unpredictable. But this one didn't shout. He knelt in the snow, removed one glove, and unwrapped something from foil. He set it down and backed away. Food. Her body moved before her fear could stop it. She crawled forward, snatched the bar, and bit. Warmth spilled over her tongue. Salt. Sweetness. Real. He said something, but she didn't understand. Still, the tone was soft. And his hand stayed low. She looked at him, really looked. His eyes were tired behind the visor. His armor patched with pieces of other suits. A traveler. Not a soldier. Naiva, she whispered, touching her chest. He blinked, then pointed to himself. Silen. She tried the sound. Len. A smile touched his lips. Close enough. By night, he had made a fire. Not much, just a coil heater powered by scraps, but it glowed warm in the small cave. Naiva sat close to it, wrapped in the old coat he'd given her. Silen sat near the entrance, rifle across his knees. Shaveth, she said softly, eyes scanning the dark. He nodded once. I saw it. She hugged her knees. It follows. He didn't ask what that meant. Instead, he asked, you alone? Naiva nodded. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, me too. The next attack came at dawn. Cylon had just stepped outside to rig a sensor when the snow beneath the rocks erupted. The snake burst from the crevice's back wall, fangs gleaming with frost. Naiva screamed. Cylon dropped his tools and dove, rifle firing a scatter shot that flashed blue heat across the snake's face. It screamed and recoiled, but not far. It circled. Naiva backed into the wall. Cylon stood between her and the beast. Go ahead, he muttered. Try me. It struck. He threw something small, round, red. A heat-burst grenade. The snow lit up in flame. Not enough to kill, but enough to drive it back. The Shaveth vanished into the cold. For now. Naiva crawled to his side. His sleeve was torn, blood trickling down his arm. Hurt, she whispered. Just a scratch, he said, wincing. She placed her small hand on the wound. Not healing. Just holding. He looked down, surprised. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. They found an old station that evening, half buried, long abandoned. Cylon forced the door open and dragged her inside. We'll stay here, he said. He activated the heater. Pulled out rations. She ate without pause. Later, by the fire, she asked, why help? Cylon stared into the flames. Because once, no one helped me. She didn't understand the words. But she understood the pain. She leaned her head on his arm. He didn't move away. She spoke more after that. Broken words. Short phrases. My name means flame, she told him. Small one. He looked at her. Naiva. Small flame. She nodded. But flame, easy to die alone. He stared at her for a long time. Then said softly, unless someone guards it. She blinked. Then smiled. You guard me? I'll try. Outside, the storm raged on. And beneath the snow, the Shaveth circled once more. But this time, the flame had a shield. Space didn't hum. It rang, like hollow bells struck by invisible wind. Out here, in orbit above the ice planet, the silence was even deeper than the snow. The ship was old. A junker. Patched and loud and barely holding atmosphere. Renik sat in the cockpit, boots on the console, chewing dried fruit from a torn packet. Outside the cracked window, stars drifted slowly, too slowly. 10 credits says this field's already picked clean, he muttered to himself. His ship, Nomad's Lean, was one of a kind. Or, more accurately, it was one of a kind because nobody else wanted it. He'd stitched it together from wrecks across 6 systems. She was ugly, loud, and never failed him. Not yet, anyway. The scanner pinged. He blinked. Not metal. Not wreckage. Biosigns. Faint. He sat up. Leaned in. The signature was weak. Falling. Slow rotation. He throttled forward. The field was thick, fragments of old orbital stations, mining rigs, even pieces of long-dead ships. He weaved through them with care, eyes fixed on the beacon. Then he saw it. An escape pod. Half frozen. Spinning end over end. Inside, a shape. Female. Humanoid. Pale glow from her skin, like she was lit from within. His hands flew over the controls. The Lean extended its grapples, caught the pod gently, and reeled it in. The medbay was small, like everything else on his ship. Barely enough room for a stretcher. He cracked the pod open with a hiss of steam. She lay inside, eyes closed, hair floating like silk in low gravity. Her skin was smooth, almost translucent, tinged blue at the edges. Her breathing was shallow. Too shallow. He checked vitals. Pulse. Weak. Oxygen. Stable. Name tag? Nothing. No ID chip either. Just a small emblem around her neck, a broken crest carved from dark metal. It hummed faintly when he touched it. "Who the hell are you?" he murmured. Her eyelids fluttered. He jumped back. Then froze. She whispered, barely audible, "Don't let it take me." Then collapsed. It took a full rotation to stabilize her. Renix didn't sleep. Not once. He patched the med systems with spare parts and rerouted power from the galley just to keep her warm. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she looked, like she'd been pulled from some dream the stars had forgotten. She woke slowly. He was dozing in the chair when her voice cut through the silence. "Where am I?" He sat up fast. "Safe. I think. Unless something explodes in the next hour." Her eyes opened. Large. Silver gray with rings of dark blue. She stared at him, confused. He waited. "You saved me." "Kinda. Found you." "Same thing." She shook her head. "I don't remember anything. Not even my name." He nodded slowly. "Figured." She reached for the necklace. Held it close. "Tal," she said at last. "I think that's what they called me." "Tal," he repeated. "I'm Renix." She tried to sit up. Winced. "Why help me?" "Because you were dying." She stared at him for a long time. Then said softly, "You're strange." He grinned. "First thing people notice about me." In the days that followed, she wandered the ship barefoot, wearing one of his spare coats far too big for her. Tal was quiet. But not cold. She watched everything. Listened to the hum of the ship. Traced symbols she didn't remember knowing into the condensation on the walls. And every now and then, she would look out the viewport and flinch. "You keep looking like something's following you," Renix said one night. They were sharing tea, his last real bag, and sitting on the metal floor of the common room. She didn't answer at first. Then, "It is." He waited. "Something came for my people. It took our stars, our warmth. It eats what we love." He frowned. "You mean like a weapon?" "No, older. Colder." She looked up. "It has no name. We only call it the void between." He didn't laugh. He just nodded. "Guess everyone's got something that haunts them." She looked at him with a strange intensity. "What haunts you?" His throat tightened. "The girl," he said softly. "A little one. I left her behind. Years ago. I still see her when I sleep." "Daughter?" "Not by blood. But, yeah." Tal placed a hand on his. Light, gentle. He didn't move. That night, the lights flickered. The engines groaned. And Renix heard a sound he'd never heard in space. A hiss. He ran to the cockpit. Outside the window, something passed, fast. A white blur, trailing mist. Too large for debris. Too quiet for ship. "Was that," he began. Tal was already beside him. Her voice a whisper. "It found me. That void thing." She nodded. "Can we fight it?" She didn't answer. He gritted his teeth. "I've got weapons. Won't matter." He slammed his fist into the console. "I just found you. Not letting you go now. She looked at him with wide eyes. Why? He stared back. Because when you spoke my name, I didn't feel alone anymore. She reached up and touched his cheek. Then I'll stay. He blinked. What? We face it. Together. They sealed the ship. Rerouted power. Lit every light. Tal took her place beside the reactor, tracing ancient runes she didn't remember learning. Renix armed the pulse cannons, eyes scanning the black. Then, silence. Cold. Something pressed against the hull. The lights dimmed. And the ship screamed. The walls groaned. The air chilled. Frost spread across the inside of the glass. Then came the voice. Not heard. Felt. Give me the worm. Tal stepped forward, hands glowing. I am the worm, she said. Renix grabbed her arm. What are you doing? This is how it ends, she whispered. But not in fear. He looked into her eyes. No, no way. Then kiss me, she said. He froze. What? Before the cold takes us. Show it we still burn. He didn't hesitate. He leaned in, and their lips met, not desperate, but steady. Not rushed, but real. Her hands cupped his face. His arms pulled her close. And the void screamed. It could not consume them. Not now. Not ever. Light filled the ship. The runes on the reactor flared white. Tal collapsed. Renix caught her. Outside, the mist fled. The black retreated. And the stars blinked, clear. She woke hours later in his arms. We made it, he whispered. I remember, she said. What? My people, we are sparks. Hunted because we carry pieces of the first flame. And you gave me yours. He smiled. Guess we burn brighter together. The jungle was alive. Not just with roots and vines, but with breath. It pulsed. It listened. The leaves shimmered in patterns that changed when you spoke. And somewhere beneath the moss and mist, something waited. Lion crouched beside a cluster of night-blooming stems, carefully scraping pollen into a vial. The petals reacted to her touch, curling toward her fingers as if hungry for connection. Calm, now, she whispered softly. I'm not taking you. Just learning. Her voice was a low hum, almost musical. The plants responded, relaxing again. She stood, stretching her back and brushing moss from her thighs. Her skin was green-gold, marked with faint bioluminescent lines that flickered with her breath. She was one of the Vaitha, a reclusive species known for their bond with biological systems. And Lion was more than just a biologist. She was a flame keeper. Not that she used the term anymore. Too much war. Too many who hunted the light. Now, she lived alone in a research habitat on the jungle moon of Hesera, studying rare flora and hiding from a galaxy too loud to listen. Until the day something fell from the sky. The sound came in the night. A low whoomph, distant but heavy. Then the canopy shook, birds scattering in a sharp wave of cries. Lion blinked out of sleep, eyes glowing in the dark. Not a storm. Not a treefall. Something metal. Something unnatural. She pulled on her sensor shawl, slung her pack over one shoulder, and stepped into the rain-humid dark. The forest parted around her like water. Even the plants knew her. She walked for hours, barefoot, silent, until she reached the crash site. A shuttle. Old design. Mostly intact, though smoke coiled from the thrusters. No markings. No insignia. And outside the ruined hatch, unconscious on the grass, lay a man. Human. She stood still, eyes narrowing. Then stepped forward, knelt beside him, and felt for a pulse. It was weak. Irregular. But it was there. His face was bruised, one cheek smeared with blood. A datapad clung to his belt, cracked but flickering with symbols she didn't recognize. She stared at him. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. The jungle didn't answer. So she picked him up, heavier than he looked, and began the long walk back. He woke a day later, gasping. Her voice was the first thing he heard. "Breathe slower. The air's thicker here." His eyes fluttered. Dark, sharp. Disoriented. Where? Safe. He tried to sit up, winced. She pressed him back gently. "Your ribs are bruised. Don't move." Are you, Vaitha?" She didn't answer. Instead, she poured him water and placed the cup in his hand. He drank slowly. "I'm Jorin," he said after a moment. "Lion." He nodded. "Thank you. I haven't helped yet." They sat in silence for a while. The research habitat was small, half grown from bioengineered roots, half built from old colony panels. Vines wrapped the walls like decorations, glowing faintly at night. Jorin watched everything like a man who'd once had much, and now had little. "You're not military," Lion said finally. He shook his head. "Scientist. Exiled. For what?" He hesitated. "Then, for studying things no one wanted remembered." Her brow lifted. "Such as?" He tapped the cracked datapad beside him. "The spark gene." Her body went still. "You know what that is?" he asked. She didn't answer. So he leaned forward. "The Flame Keepers. Your kind. You were guardians of the first warmth. But the empires, they called it heresy. Outlawed your blood. Scattered your tribes." Her voice was low. "And you think you're the first to rediscover this?" "No, just the one who got caught." Lion stood. Walked to the corner of the room. There, growing in a thick vat of soil and filtered starlight, was a small plant with glowing roots. Jorin blinked. "That's..." "Yes. They said it was myth." She touched one of the leaves, and it pulsed gently beneath her fingers. "Some myths survive," she said. He stared at her, not at her skin or her glow or her strange calm, but at her strength. "You've kept it alive." "I've kept myself alive." He stood, still sore, and stepped closer. "Lion, if I help you, we could revive the archive. Your species' biology could teach the stars how to breathe again." She turned, slowly. "And what would you ask in return?" He hesitated. Then said, almost too softly, "That you stop walking alone." The next few days passed in quiet rhythm. He helped repair her nutrient pumps. She taught him the cadence of the jungle. He wasn't useless, he'd worked on deep gen research for years. But he was clumsy. The plants didn't listen to him like they did her. Still, she smiled when he tripped. And sometimes, her hand lingered longer than it needed to when she helped him stand. They sat together in the evenings, beside the glowflowers, sharing tea brewed from stardust root. "You don't ask questions," he said once. "You already have too many. Don't you want to know why I came here?" "I already know. You were looking for something that loves the dark." He looked at her. "And you?" "I was hiding from it." He reached for her hand. She let him hold it. But the jungle wasn't quiet for long. Something else had landed, days after his shuttle. And this one didn't come with silence. It came with steel. Hunters. She saw them first, figures in dark armor moving through the trees like fire through leaves. The plants screamed in her mind. The earth whispered, "Danger." Jorin checked the sensor. "Mercs. Hired. Tracking my signal." "How long?" she asked. "Hours." Maybe less. She stared at the plant in the vat. The last living emberflower. Then at him. We can't let them find it. He nodded. Take it, she said. What? Take the spark gene. Run. I'll stay. He stepped forward. No. Jorin. You said you've stayed alive. Now let me help you live. He kissed her then, desperate. Not gentle. And she kissed him back. Not afraid. They set the trap at dusk. She led the hunters in a circle, through vines that obeyed her, into pits that opened at her signal. He activated the transmitter decoy, sending false pings into the highlands. When the mercs finally reached the habitat, it was empty. Except for the flower. And when they touched it, it burned. They screamed as their suits corroded, as heat pulsed from the roots and sent shockwaves into the trees. Jorin and Lion watched from the cliffs above. He exhaled. It's done. She leaned against him. Not yet. What now? We take the spark somewhere it can grow. They left Hesera that night in an old freighter she'd hidden beneath the moss years ago. The engine barely held. The air filters wheezed. But they were warm. And they were together. As they broke orbit, Lion looked at him, her eyes soft with something unspoken. You still haunted? He looked down. Less now. Good, she said. Because I burn. And I don't want to burn alone anymore. He kissed her again. And this time, it wasn't about running. It was about staying. The void had a sound. Not a scream. Not a roar. It was the silence between things, the gap between heartbeat and breath, between falling and landing. Ziva floated through that silence now. Her ship, a long-range courier-class freighter, spun slowly at the edge of a collapsed star's gravity field. One engine was fried. The navigation core had shorted out mid-jump, pulling her into a slingshot orbit around a dead sun. Days had passed. Or maybe weeks. It was hard to tell anymore. She sat in the cockpit, legs folded beneath her, eyes fixed on the shimmering swirl of the gravity lens outside the window. Her skin was a soft umber, marked by twin streaks of silver beneath each eye, the sign of her old rank. Long since abandoned. She'd stolen the ship. Not for profit. For escape. Her people hunted her. Her crimes weren't spoken aloud, they were the kind written in silence and exile. Her only passenger. A sealed diplomatic crate she hadn't dared open. Until now. It opened with a hiss. Inside was a man. Human. Tall, bruised, breathing. Cryosleep. Ziva stepped back as the fog cleared and he fell forward into her arms. Stars, she muttered, catching him by reflex. Who the void are you? He blinked. Coughed. Then looked at her with dazed, tired eyes. Where am I? He rasped. Adrift. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, you're not the one who was supposed to find me. You weren't supposed to be here at all. He smiled faintly. Story of my life. His name was Matic. Former envoy to the Sinar colony, now declared lost during conflict. He had been escaping a political scandal, one involving forbidden treaties, missing technology, and a secret spark archive buried beneath the diplomatic corps. You're telling me, Ziva said as she passed him a cup of lukewarm synth tea, that you were smuggled out of a capital under death sentence, frozen, and abandoned in my stolen ship, by accident? He sipped. Technically, yes. She stared at him. He smiled, then coughed. Okay. Maybe not accident. Maybe it was just, fate. Fate doesn't like me very much. Same. They sat in silence for a while. The ship creaked. The black swirled outside. So, Matic said eventually, what did you do? She didn't look up. I refused an order. Just one. It was enough. He didn't ask more. She appreciated that. They began to repair the comm array together. He wasn't technical, but he listened well. Watched her fingers. Matched her rhythm. One night, while rewiring a stabilizer, his hand brushed hers. He didn't move away. She didn't either. Later, he asked, "Do you sing?" She blinked. "What?" "You hum. When you work. Sounds like music." She looked away. "It's old. From my people. A kind of code. We use it to calm nerves." "What's it called?" "It doesn't translate." "Try. It's something like Song for the Quiet Before Light." He stared at her. "You're not what I expected." "No one ever is." The ship groaned again. The gravity well pulled harder now. The engines couldn't last. "We're falling," Ziva said one morning, scanning the orbit vector. "How long?" 3 days. Maybe 2. He nodded. "Then we'll need to do something foolish." "Like what?" He smiled. "Build a jump coil from pieces of an Envoy's cryopod, a busted heat sink, and some leftover shield emitters." She blinked. "You're joking." "No, but you can laugh if you want." She didn't. But she smiled. They worked side by side, cutting wires, welding panels. She taught him how to reroute energy flows. He taught her an old Earth phrase that meant, "We might die, but at least we tried." On the second night, they sat by the cargo window, drinking melted ration broth and watching the dying light spin. "What do you miss most?" Maddox asked. "Flying," she said. Without looking over my shoulder. "I miss touch," he said quietly. "Someone reaching for me without fear." She looked at him. "Then take mine," she whispered, holding out her hand. He did. On the final day, the jump coil was ready. Barely. The ship creaked like bones under pressure. Systems blinked red. Ziva strapped into the pilot seat. Maddox braced beside her. "Ready?" she asked. He took a breath. "Always." She closed her eyes. Whispered the old song beneath her breath. Quiet before light. The coil charged. The stars bent. Then. Jump. They slammed into real space with a crack of light and a burst of smoke. The ship held. Barely. They collapsed against each other, laughing. Alive. Later, in the dark, she curled beside him in the cargo bay. "You saved me," she murmured. "I just followed the sound of your song." She looked at him. "Stay." He nodded. "As long as you'll have me."